What if the thing that terrifies you the most isn't the monster under your bed, but the one you invite inside? In Derry, Maine, folks argue over it. Some say it's the wind howling through the pines that'll drive you mad. Others swear it's the shadows that stretch too long after dusk. Me, I think it's the quiet ones, the strangers who slip into town unnoticed. Like the man who came in the fall of '87, when the leaves bled red and the air tasted of rot. His name was Orlok, Count Orlok, and he didn't just visit Derry, he fed on it. It started with Ellen Hutter, a girl too stubborn for her own good. She was 19, all sharp edges and restless eyes, the kind of kid who'd climb the tallest oak just to spit on the world below. Her boyfriend, Tommy Harker, was softer, worked at the lumber mill, smelled of sawdust and cheap beer. They'd been shacked up in a clapboard rental on the edge of town where the streetlights flickered like they were scared to stay lit. Ellen liked the quiet out there, said it made her feel alive. That was before the letters started. They came in brittle envelopes, wax-sealed with a crest no one recognized, a jagged O that looked like it had been clawed into the paper. Inside, spidery handwriting begged Ellen to come to Blackwood Lane, a crumbling estate nobody had lived in since the '40s. Your presence is required, the notes read. A matter of blood. Tommy laughed it off, said it was some nut job playing a prank. But Ellen, she got that look, like a dog hearing a whistle too high for human ears. She started dreaming of a man with a face like a skull, pale as bone, with fingers that stretched like spider legs. She'd wake up clawing at the sheets, whispering, "He's calling me." Derry's got a way of chewing up the curious, and Ellen was no exception. One October night, with the moon hanging low and yellow like a jaundiced eye, she slipped out, left Tommy snoring, grabbed her coat, and walked the 3 miles to Blackwood Lane. The house loomed against the sky, its windows black as tar pits, its roof sagging like wet flesh. The front door creaked open before she knocked, and that's when she saw him, Count Orlok, standing in the foyer. He wasn't tall, but he filled the room like smoke, his bald head gleaming under a chandelier thick with cobwebs. His eyes were pits, endless and hungry, and his smile showed teeth too long for a human mouth. "Welcome, child," he rasped, voice like gravel scraped over bone. Ellen should have run. God knows I would have. But she stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind her. Tommy didn't notice she was gone till morning, found her side of the bed cold, the blankets twisted like she'd fought something in her sleep. He called her name, checked the kitchen, the yard, nothing. Then he saw the note on the table, scrawled in her handwriting. "Gone to Blackwood, don't follow." Panic hit him like a fist. He grabbed his truck keys and tore down the road, the old Ford rattling like it knew what was coming. Blackwood Lane wasn't a place you went willingly. Kids said it was haunted. Grown-ups said worse. Tommy didn't care. He pounded on the door till his knuckles bled, yelling for Ellen. The house stayed silent, but the air thickened, buzzing like flies over a corpse. He kicked the door in, splintering the wood, and stumbled into a stench that made his stomach lurch. Sweet and rancid, like meat left out too long. The foyer was empty, but footprints smudged the dust, small ones. Ellen's sneakers. They led upstairs. Each step creaked under Tommy's weight, the banister sticky with something he didn't want to name. Shadows twisted in the corners, stretching toward him like they had hands. He called her name again, voice cracking, and heard a faint whimper from the attic. The stairs up were narrow, the walls closing in, and the air grew colder with every breath. His flashlight flickered, throwing jagged shapes across the peeling wallpaper, shapes that didn't match his own. The attic door hung ajar, and there she was, Ellen, slumped on her knees in the center of the room. Her skin was gray, her eyes wide and unblinking, staring at Count Orlok. He stood over her, hunched like a vulture, his claws tracing her cheek. Blood trickled from 2 punctures on her neck, soaking her shirt, pooling on the floorboards. Tommy screamed her name, lunging forward, but Orlok turned, and those eyes, Christ, those eyes, pinned him where he stood. They weren't just empty, they were alive, swirling with something older than Derry, older than time. "You're too late," Orlok hissed, his voice cutting through Tommy's skull. Ellen's head lolled, and she smiled, a sick, vacant grin that wasn't hers. Tommy swung the flashlight, cracking it against Orlok's jaw. The Count didn't flinch. Instead, he laughed, a sound like nails on slate, and grabbed Tommy by the throat. His grip was iron, cold as the grave, and Tommy felt his feet leave the floor. Ellen didn't move, didn't blink, just kept smiling as Orlok's teeth sank into Tommy's neck. Tommy didn't die, not right away. He woke up hours later, sprawled in that attic, Ellen gone, the Count gone, just him and the dark. His neck burned, his veins throbbed, and when he stumbled to a cracked mirror, he saw it. His eyes weren't his anymore. They glowed, faint and sickly, like Orlok's. He felt it then, a hunger, deep and gnawing, not for food, but for life. He clawed at his face, sobbing, but the change was already crawling through him. He staggered back to town, barefoot, blood crusted on his shirt. Derry slept, oblivious, the streetlights buzzing faintly. He passed the diner, saw Old Man Pritchard sipping coffee through the window. The smell hit him, hot, coppery, alive. His mouth watered, his teeth ached, and before he knew it, he was inside, hands around Pritchard's throat, teeth tearing into flesh. The old man's screams gurgled out, and Tommy drank, horrified but helpless, a puppet to the thing Orlok had planted in him. The shocking part? Ellen wasn't dead either. Tommy found her the next night, standing in their kitchen, pale as moonlight, her own eyes glowing. She didn't speak, just reached for him, claws gleaming where nails used to be. They didn't fight, didn't run. They stood there, 2 monsters born from one, and the hunger sang between them. Derry didn't stand a chance. By week's end, the town was quiet. Too quiet. Folks started whispering about missing neighbors, locked doors torn open, shadows moving where they shouldn't. Me, I'm writing this from a cellar, barricaded tight. But I hear them out there. Tommy, Ellen, and something worse. Something that rasps like Orlok. They're coming, and I don't know if this lock will hold. So, reader, lock your doors tonight. Check your windows. And if you hear a knock, don't answer. Because the scariest stories don't end here. They're waiting for you in the next one. Go ahead, hit that next video. See what's scratching at your door.